I'm just completing some Lovebirds, just finally assembling them. Always takes longer than I expect. What particularly makes these, though, I think attractive is the paint job on these. They're very bright colours, but to get the subtlety of the plumage, it's very difficult to do that with the paintbrush, where the bright colours blend together. So with this, I use an airbrush to finish them. To start with, I coat the wood with artist gesso. I give it a couple of coats, sand it down to make a nice smooth finish. And then I can get on with the airbrushing and finally use paintbrush for the detail, like the beak and the wings. Finally, I give it a couple of coats of lacquer, first gloss lacquer and then dead flat lacquer, and then afterwards a little bit of gloss lacquer on the beak and the eye, just to finish it off. And I think they'll look quite attractive. So in the meantime, I'll show you my basic but very functional airbrush setup. Got a very basic setup for airbrushing. Cardboard box that I cut a hole in. Just nicely open up to make a chamber. Stored away in there. I out of a bit of plywood that I cut out, I made a filter box, 3D printed a flange, I think you'd call it, would you? On the top there to take the extract. So, and then you can buy this. I bought this on eBay. This filter material. Should pop on the top. And that just handily goes on the top there. And then I can adjust this so that the air stays in there. Looks a bit Heath Robinson, cheap and cheerful, but I think I've had it for about 5 years, this setup, and it's still going fairly strong. But I'm not sure that any commercial one would have lasted any longer, frankly, and it's pretty cheap and inexpensive just to make get a new box and cut a hole and reuse this bit again, of course. Just held together with duct tape. So I've got the chamber. Now I need the extraction, and for the extraction I resorted to the plumbing shop. I just bought a bathroom extractor, and in and out. So put an arrow on it so that I know which way the air is going without having to keep checking. So I can go out of the window, but I find the filter works pretty well just for a bit of spray airbrush paint. So just lay that out, and now we just need again, this is just my bathroom shop. Clip on the end there that I bought somewhere, made in Taiwan. Just put that on the top. Put the other end onto the fan. There we are, it's running now, and what you probably can't hear is that it's mercifully very quiet. Now then, for an airbrush pump I've got this contraption, which I think is just made out of an old fridge compressor, isn't it, with a storage pipe in the tube there. It's, I've had this over 40 years, so it's lasted me pretty well. It's actually relatively expensive, I suppose, when I bought it, but I can't complain because it really has lasted extremely well. So, again, it runs really quietly as well, just the same amount of sound as a fridge really. And then I've got the adapter and for the airbrushes, which I'll find next. 3 airbrushes that I use. I've got this one, very cheap and cheerful, just use it for splatter painting really, not very often, painting eggs, things like that. Secondly, I got this one, cheap, fairly cheap they are. Actually work very well though, not for fine work particularly, but if you just for most of what I do, painting bodies, just general coat of paint, works really well. Say only about £20, and quite pleased with that one. And thirdly, I've got a more expensive one. This is a Badger 105 where you can do finer work. I must admit it's not really as well maintained as perhaps it ought to be, so you couldn't really do a lot of fine work with it, but you could if you'd looked after it better. But it does the job that I want, which is putting the final touches on. Usually I use it for. Just needs a little bit of lubrication there. Okay, I'll just connect all this up and get going. Just put some gloves on. Going out later, you don't want to get airbrush paint, you look as though you're a heavy smoker. So don't want that. Right then. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple that have been commissioned, a couple of Lovebirds, and then all the rest are standard ones. They're sort of bluey grey, the ones that are commissioned. Unusual colour. A bit of a background of light grey on this one. These are various, well, use what I can get really. These Valero ones are quite good. Also Dale and Rowney paints, a little bit on the thick side, but okay. Just mix them up inside, just a little drop. Oh, my fingers on it. The test paper. How that goes. Okay, I've finished the Lovebirds now. Let's see if we can see them. Finished them off after I'd finished spraying them with just a fine paintbrush, just to do the white lines around the beak and the white of the eyes. And then the pupils, what I use is one of these little metal ball type things. They sell them for nail painting, nail decorating. And they're great. You just get a little blob of paint on and you can apply them and you get a nice round pupil. So there they are, two custom Lovebirds ready to be lacquered and to go on the mechanism. Thanks for watching. See you next time.